All right, let's dive into Stephen King's Revival.
Yeah, this one's a trip.
It really is. Coming of age, sci-fi, and a good dose of cosmic horror. We're going to unpack a lot here. Faith, loss, forbidden knowledge, all that good stuff. I'm already getting those King-style chills.
I think what really struck me about this book was how King uses electricity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he gives it this ominous presence, almost like it has its own consciousness, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the way he writes, you can practically feel the buzz right there on the page. And speaking of feeling the electricity, let's talk about young Jamie Morton and his fascination with Reverend Jacobs.
Oh, yeah, Jacobs.
And remember Peaceable Lake, that elaborate miniature town?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the whole Electric Jesus demonstration. It's like a magic show, a Sunday sermon, and a horror movie all rolled into one.
You know, it's interesting that scene really sets the stage. Like, King is showing us right from the start how faith and technology are going to be intertwined throughout the story.
Yeah, he's definitely laying the groundwork there.
There's even some foreshadowing going on, hinting at Jacobs' future obsession with electricity, the idea that he's going to push it beyond its limits.
And then there's that scene where Jacobs uses his electrical nerve stimulator to cure Jamie's brother, Conrad. I mean, Conrad goes from being mute to speaking perfectly in an instant.
Right. Talk about a quick fix. It makes you wonder, is it a miracle? Or is it something a little more unsettling?
Right. Like, how much can we really tamper with the natural order of things before we cross a line?
And that's what makes you think, is Jacobs really a healer? Or is he playing with forces he doesn't fully understand? It's like those blurred lines between science and faith healing, you know?
Totally. Makes you think about the ethics of it all.
Yeah.
Is it right to use technology to fix people, even if it seems to work?
Exactly.
And then, boom, everything changes with that terrible sermon. Jacobs denounces God, and then tragedy strikes. His wife and son are killed in a horrific accident. It's like a bomb going off in this small town.
Yeah, it's more than just a dramatic event. It's a major turning point in the story for both Jamie and Jacobs.
Oh, for sure.
For Jamie, it shatters his faith. For Jacobs, it sends him down this dark path, almost like he's trying to defy fate.
It's heart-wrenching when Jamie takes his anger out on a statue of Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows how deeply this loss has affected him.
You know, it's raw human grief. When we're faced with unimaginable pain, sometimes we lash out, we question everything. King captures that so perfectly.
He really does.
Yeah.
And from this point on, Jamie and Jacobs' lives take these completely different paths. Jamie turns to music, he starts a band, tries to find his way like so many teenagers do.
Yeah, right, trying to make sense of the world.
Exactly. But Jacobs, he disappears, only to reappear years later as a traveling showman with this act called Portraits in Lightning.
It's like they both experience this terrible loss, but they're coping in very different ways. Jamie's seeking solace and creativity, while Jacobs is almost embracing the darkness.
And then, bam, their paths collide again at the Tulsa State Fair. You just know it's not a coincidence, right? It feels like fate is pulling them back together.
It's definitely not random. King is setting the stage for a confrontation. And then there's that scene where Jacobs' act goes haywire.
Oh, yeah, it's like a glimpse behind the curtain, like we're seeing what he's really capable of.
Exactly. And it's where we start to hear about this secret electricity that Jacobs is obsessed with. It's not just science anymore. It's bordering on the supernatural.
He really blurs those lines.
That's it, totally. It's like King is saying there are forces in the universe that we barely understand.
And Jacobs is determined to tap into them.
Yeah.
But is it a blessing or a curse? I mean, that's the big question, isn't it?
And that's where we get to Jamie's struggles with heroin addiction.
Yeah, things get even more complicated.
Because here comes Jacobs again, offering a cure using his secret electricity. It seems miraculous, but is it too good to be true?
There's always a catch with Jacobs, right?
Always a catch. Because even though the cure works, Jamie starts experiencing these disturbing side effects. Sleepwalking, involuntary movement.
And that terrifying scene where he tries to stab himself with a fork.
Yeah, it's like the cure has unleashed something dark within him, like he's been marked somehow.
It makes you question Jacobs' motives, right? Is he actually helping Jamie, or is he using him for some kind of experiment?
Right. It's like Jamie is being drawn deeper and deeper into Jacobs' web.
And fast forward a few years, Jamie's trying to rebuild his life, working at a recording studio, dealing with the lingering effects of that cure.
Trying to put the pieces back together.
Exactly. But then he stumbles across Jacobs' website.
Yeah.
And things take a very dark turn.
Oh, yeah, the healing ministry.
Yeah, but there are these rumors swirling around, strange occurrences, people disappearing.
It's like this creeping dread starts to take over.
And the evidence just keeps piling up. Something is very wrong with Jacobs's miracles. Patients are suffering from bizarre side effects. Some are even dying.
The tension is building.
It's like we're heading towards this inevitable confrontation. Jamie knows he has to do something, but he's also terrified of what he might find.
It's that classic King scenario, right? The protagonist drawn into a world of darkness, and we're right there with him.
Absolutely. And driven by a growing sense of unease, maybe even a bit of guilt, Jamie decides to confront Jacobs at his secluded estate. The Latches.
Ah, the Latches.
The place is opulent but unsettling, like a gilded cage.
Full of secrets.
And then, to Jamie's complete shock, he finds Astrid, his old girlfriend, at the Latches. She's terminally ill with cancer, and it's pretty clear that Jacobs is using her as part of his grand experiment.
It becomes personal for Jamie.
Oh, absolutely. And then Jacobs, in this chilling display of his power, uses electricity to temporarily heal Astrid. But it's not a cure. It's more like a brief reprieve.
It's disturbing.
And Astrid describes seeing a door in the wall, sensing this dark presence beyond it.
It's like we're stepping into the realm of cosmic horror. This door suggests that Jacobs is messing with something far more profound, far more dangerous than just electricity.
And wouldn't you know it, a massive thunderstorm is brewing, mirroring the one Jamie and Astrid experienced years ago. It's like nature itself is reacting to what Jacobs is doing.
It's a bad omen.
The storm becomes this symbol of impending doom. But Jacobs, he's too obsessed to listen. He thinks he's on the verge of a major breakthrough.
He thinks he can control it all.
He's determined to return to Skytop, the place where it all began, to complete his experiment. This time, he's using a young girl named Mary Fay as his subject.
It's heartbreaking. You know it's not going to end well.
You just know it. Jacobs is playing God, and as we all know, that never ends well.
It's kind of crazy how King uses music throughout the story, you know?
Yeah, how so?
It's like, it's almost this parallel to Jacobs' obsession with electricity. Like music, it's this powerful force that can be creative, you know, beautiful, but also like really destructive.
Whoa, I like that. I hadn't thought about it quite like that. But yeah, for Joni, music is like this escape. It's how he expresses himself, you know?
Yeah.
Tries to make sense of all the darkness around him. But for Jacobs, music is like a tool. It's a weapon.
Yeah.
Like a means to manipulate people, to control them.
You hit the nail on the head. Like, think about those revival meetings in the book. Those things are intense. They're like rock concerts.
Yeah.
All designed to stir up this like frenzy and fervor in people.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy when you think about it. Like, is he using music to tap into something deeper, something we don't quite understand? You know, like we all have this primal connection to music.
It's true. It's almost like how he uses electricity, twisting it, you know, bending it to his will. And speaking of twisting things, let's talk about the ending.
Oh, man.
It's wild. One of the most intense, like, mind-blowing conclusions to any King book I've ever read. What'd you think?
Oh, it's pure nightmare fuel.
It really is.
When they go back to Skytop for that final confrontation, King doesn't hold back. Like, at all. He shows you the full cosmic horror of what's waiting behind that door. It's like a glimpse into another dimension. Something ancient and just wrong.
Yeah, and poor Mary Fay, like just a kid caught in the middle of all this.
It's so sad.
It really makes you think about how innocence is so often the first casualty when you have someone like Jacobs who gets obsessed with power. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, you know, at the end of the day, the book is really about this idea that playing God has consequences. And that's what happens to Jacobs. He thinks he can control these forces, but he ends up unleashing something he just doesn't understand, something that consumes him.
And that image of Jacobs being consumed by the very thing he's trying to control.
Oh, yeah.
Like it stays with you. It's a haunting reminder that we shouldn't mess with things we don't understand. It's about our own hubris, you know, our desire to unravel the mysteries of the universe, even if we're not ready for those answers.
Yeah, and King, he's not giving us easy answers in this book.
Yeah.
That's what makes Revival so thought-provoking, right? It makes you think about faith, science, and the very nature of reality.
But even with all the horror, there's still this glimmer of hope in the story, you know? Like, Jamie survives, he's scarred, but he makes it. It's like King is saying that even when we encounter these dark, dark corners of existence, like the human spirit, it can endure.
I think that's what makes Jamie such a compelling character. Like, he's been through hell and back, but he still chooses to live.
Yeah.
You know? He still wants to find meaning in this world that's been completely turned upside down.
I think that's what really connects with readers, is that idea that even when our beliefs are shattered and everything we thought we knew is wrong, there's still a way forward.
And that idea of resilience, you know, that refusal to give up, it's inspiring.
So I know we've talked a lot about themes and ideas here, but I wanted to touch on King's writing style a bit.
Oh, yeah.
He's such a master of atmosphere. You know, like the way he describes the Tulsa State Fair or the stillness of Skytop. You can just picture it. You're there with the characters.
His prose is just so vivid, you know, so evocative.
It is.
He uses all these sensory details to draw you in. It's like you feel the heat, the cold, you feel the tension in the air. It's like he's painting a picture with words, you know.
He is. And he doesn't shy away from the dark stuff either. He takes us right to the edge and sometimes, pushes us over. But that's what makes him such a great storyteller. He's not afraid to make us uncomfortable.
Exactly. He confronts our deepest fears. And I think, in doing so, he helps us understand them a little better.
I think so too. One thing that really struck me about Revival is how King explores faith. Not just religious faith, but like faith in something larger than ourselves, something that gives our lives meaning.
Totally. Like Jacob's, right? In his own, messed up way.
Totally messed up.
He's a man of faith. He believes in the power of that secret electricity. He sees it as this key to unlocking all the secrets of the universe. But his faith gets twisted, corrupted by his own ambition, his need for power.
It does. And then you have Jamie, whose faith is tested over and over again throughout the story. He loses his belief in God, but he never completely gives up on the possibility of something more out there. He's searching for a different kind of faith.
Yeah, a faith that can embrace both the beauty and the horror of the world.
And that's something we can all relate to, right?
Definitely.
Whether we're religious or not, there are times when we question everything. We struggle to make sense of it all.
We've all been there.
And it's so easy to grasp at easy answers, to follow someone who promises to reveal the truth, like Jacobs does.
Yeah, he's a charmer.
He is. But as Revival shows us, sometimes chasing after knowledge, seeking those answers, it can lead us down a really dangerous path.
Oh, yeah. Jacobs is like this cautionary tale. It's like a reminder that even the brightest minds can get seduced by power.
And the scariest thing,
What's up?
he might have been right. He might have actually been onto something.
Oh, yeah.
He might have tapped into something real, something beyond our comprehension. But the cost was just way too high.
Yeah, the price of knowledge can be steep, and that's the real horror of Revival, right? It's that idea that some mysteries are best left alone. Tampering with things we don't understand can have devastating consequences.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's not just a horror story, right? At its core, it's about us. It's about humanity, our capacity for good and evil, our ability to create and destroy, to love and to lose.
Yeah, it's a story about what it means to be human in this weird, crazy, sometimes terrifying world.
It's weird, right? We've been talking about Revival for a while now, analyzing the themes, the characters, all that stuff. But there's something about this book that goes way beyond analysis. It just gets under your skin.
It lingers. Yeah. It's one of those stories that just kind of sticks with you. Makes you think about things you'd rather not think about, what's really out there in the dark, just beyond what we can see.
That's King, right? He's a master at tapping into those primal fears.
Yeah.
The stuff that's been scaring us since we were kids, telling ghost stories around a campfire.
Yeah, the unknown, the unseen.
Exactly.
The idea that there are forces out there that we just can't control.
Totally. And he does it in such a grounded way. The characters in Revival feel so real. Dealing with real problems,
Yeah.
Addiction, grief, trying to find their purpose. But then he throws in this element of the supernatural, and it's the everyday just becomes terrifying.
It's like he's saying the darkness is always there, right?
Right.
Just below the surface. And all it takes is a little push for it to break through.
And that push, it can come from anywhere.
Yeah, totally. It could be a charismatic preacher like Jacobs. It could be some scientific discovery. It could even be our own curiosity. It's like a cautionary tale about searching for answers that we might not be ready for.
But there's also that sense of wonder in the book.
Yeah.
A fascination with the unknown. We're attracted to the darkness even though it scares us.
Think about Jacobs again.
Yeah.
He's driven by this need to know more, right?
Oh, yeah, he's got to figure it out.
This belief that he can unlock all the secrets of the universe.
Yeah.
And in a way that's pretty admirable, but it's also what makes him so dangerous because he never stops to think about the consequences.
He's so focused on the what that he forgets about the why, and in the end, that's his downfall.
Yeah. Knowledge without wisdom,
Exactly.
It's a dangerous thing. Like, maybe some things are better left unknown.
But what about Jamie, right? Like, he's the one who makes it out of this whole thing. What do you think his story tells us?
Well, I think Jamie represents hope. Like, he's been through hell, but he doesn't give up.
Yeah.
He chooses to keep going, to find meaning in this world that's been completely shattered. It's pretty powerful.
Maybe that's the whole point of revival. Like, even when we're faced with true horror, when everything we thought we knew is wrong, we can still choose hope, choose to find our way back to the light.
I like that. It's a powerful message. I know we've been talking big picture stuff, but what about King's writing? The way he uses language. I mean, he creates these images that stick with you.
Oh, he's so good at that. His descriptions are incredible.
They are.
Like, you can feel the heat of the summer fair, the chill of the storm on the mountain, that weird humming of electricity. It's like he's using all your senses to pull you into the story.
Yeah. And the characters feel so real, too. Jamie, the musician, struggling to figure things out. Jacob's this brilliant but totally flawed preacher. Astrid, just caught in the middle of it all.
They feel so human.
They do.
Even with all their flaws, and that's what makes it also compelling. It's like we see ourselves in these characters, our own struggles, our own fears and hopes.
And then there's the ending. It's something else.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit before, but it deserves another look.
It's shocking, disturbing, but I think ultimately pretty unforgettable.
King doesn't hold anything back. Like,
No.
He shows you the true horror of what Jacobs unleashes, and it's not pretty, but there's this weird beauty to it too.
Yeah, it's almost awe-inspiring. This kind of glimpse into something we don't understand.
Yeah, it's like we're witnessing something ancient, something primal. And it was right there all along.
And in the end, we're left with all these questions. What really happened up there at Skytop? What's on the other side of that door? What does it all mean?
And I think that's what makes the book so powerful. Like, it doesn't give you easy answers, It makes you question everything, makes you think for yourself.
So what about you, the listener? What really resonated with you about revival? What are you still thinking about? I think this book really makes you question your own beliefs, makes you look at the world a little differently. It's scary, sure, but it also reminds us that there's always hope, even in the darkest times.
Absolutely. There's always the possibility of redemption. And the human spirit is strong. We can overcome a lot.
This book challenges us. It terrifies us. But in the end, it leaves us with this sense of wonder.
Yeah. That makes you think.
It does. So keep thinking about it. Keep asking those questions. Keep exploring those dark corners of your own imagination. You never know what you might find.
That's true.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into revival. We hope you enjoyed it. And, hey, remember, the darkness is always listening.